Right. We heard you loud and clear. So yesterday's vlog, we were talking about the town. So we're doing a town part of Normandy, and we were looking at this and we were thinking to ourselves, "Oh, looks just a little bit clean."
Especially when you consider how clean the buildings look compared to the mat that we're using.
Yes, yes. So there was a bit of a juxtaposition, would you say, between what we were seeing here. So we needed to rework it and blend it all together and make it much more D-Day +1, D-Day +2, because what we hadn't realised and what we discovered in our research, and John kindly enlightened us, is that there was a lot of bombardments and stuff that went on prior to D-Day actually taking place. So there was quite a lot, like the towns and stuff were hit quite heavily, and they were much more dirty, ruined kind of places.
6 hours or something, you said?
6 hours bombardment, John?
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
Yeah, 6 hours bombardment.
Not so long as to give it away that this is where we're coming in.
Yeah.
But long enough to try and take out most things that would cause issues.
So we set to work on a weathering stage, and we have turned this into this.
Give us a nice wide shot there, please, so you can see it.
So
Look
this
at
way,
that, compared to that,
you can see before and the current after. So we still have a few stages we have to do on this, but let me take you through what we've done. So every building has now received a touch of weathering. We've added a lot more dirt and grime to all of the buildings. As a result of adding dirt and grime to the buildings, we then got another opposite mismatch.
Yes.
Where the buildings were more grimy than the streets.
like if I take two from here and suddenly put them over here, all right? Do you see how grimy they are now compared to the street?
There was basically there's a coloration mismatch there that just makes it just kills it a little bit.
But the thing is, we really liked how the buildings looked over here because it looks like somewhere where there's dust and flames and smoke that's been billowing out.
Yeah. So what we did was we used the same technique as we've been using on the buildings, and then went in and further weathered the actual mat itself.
So what did we do that with? We did it with a thing called a model-made spray.
Yeah, we're going to show you now, actually. So if I take a couple of minutes and bring you over, I can actually show you the uber-fast method for weathering buildings. So over here, we have a building. Ta-da! So this is our little clean building in my makeshift spray booth. Now we use a product, this is discontinued, this product, but the company that manufactures them still exists, but they produce sprays in larger cans, and they're used in the theatre and the movie industry as fast weathering options. And basically what they are is they're basically a fabric dye that's pressurized in a container.
So this stuff would be kind of similar to the dyes that you use to take to add green to these tables.
Exactly.
And the browns that you already used on those tables.
Exactly.
Can you run that sort of stuff through an airbrush?
I was about to say, in a future episode, what we'll have a look at, we'll maybe reach out to Mel and have a chat about this. Mel, terrain shooter, I have a challenge for you, my friend. I'm thinking that we could recreate these kinds of weathering dyes for use through an airbrush using a combination of something like a medium, a base medium, and fabric dyes.
Yeah, sounds cool.
That we mix together, put into a dropper bottle, and then you could put that into an airbrush, and then you could create an unlimited homemade supply of weathering spray.
And you just have like 2 litre bottles up on your shelf.
Yeah.
Sounds like a way to go.
I use a variety of colours, so we will start with mud brown. Now watch, because the technique is so complicated with this.
Wow.
Isn't that hard?
Look at the technique.
So just lots of little fast bursts. And we're just trying to bring the whole thing down just a level. Okay? Right. Step 1 done. Step 2, I'm going to give it... I need sand brown.
We need sand brown.
Yeah, I need sand brown. In the meantime, I'll do a little bit of moss green. So moss green I tend to keep towards the top of the building. So, and this is very light blasts. just to catch kind of edges where you would get moss. And the reason I do that towards the top of the buildings is because I imagine moss coming up from the bottom and coming down from the top. But in the bottoms I have something else that I'm going to do. So just another little blast like that. And then just on the roof, just to darken the roof a little bit. We have one called Rusty Red, which is kind of nice. It's an optional one. You can decide whether to use it or not. I like to put a little bit of Rusty Red onto some patches of the roof. Again, just to kind of darken the roof down a little bit. Sand Brown then. Now Sand Brown, we're going to get a little bit lower and try and catch like an edge or front of the building. So, just like that. Get this one a bit lower. Okay, and then the last one is Oil Brown. Now with Oil Brown, what we do is we tip the house back. So let's see if you can see this. So I'm going to tip the house back, and I'm just going to catch the bottom, just to give us that street level. Just like that.
Yeah. And even if it wasn't a destroyed town, a little bit of extra shading like this can just add that extra bit of grime that your average building gets.
The handy thing is, because we deal in war zones, you can afford to be a little bit heavy-handed with this stuff. So, right, so that is our weathered house. The great stuff about this is it dries really, really quickly. So that, in theory, could sit anywhere now and just blend in.
Perfect. Just like that.
Okay.
And a similar technique then, just overspraying the table, was it?
Now, for the actual table itself, what I had, I don't know if it's still around, I had a piece of card, basically a flap from a box. So if you can imagine, let me just take that. Okay, so I had a piece of card like that, okay? Now if I move this out of the way, what I did was I concentrated different shades on different areas. So on the roads, I concentrated Oil Brown, okay? And what I would do is I would put down just a piece of card like that and then spray it down. And what it did was it gave me a more darker patch here and allowed me to keep the footpaths a slightly lighter shade. And then I did Mud Brown with blasts of moss green and stuff into here. Where up around the factory area, I used the same technique to weather the factories. I used a bit of soot black on these burned out buildings just to give them that darker kind of sooty kind of a feel. And then in this main factory area, you can see I've started to put down a layer of a rusty red, just for all that kind of red brick dust that was going to be billowing out.
And then we lifted the track when we were doing. I'll just lift out a wee bits, as you can see. Like we put the mats together.
Yeah.
So you wouldn't have one mat that was blended differently to the other.
No, when I apply the weathering to this mat, it'll blend seamlessly into that. I also, if you put the track down, you'll notice that I have applied an Oil Brown to the actual rail track as well. So this is the final, well, almost the final colour that the rail track is going to be. Yeah. So that's its original colour. And I think with the Oil Brown, it makes it a much more realistic.
And it does make a big difference when you see it like laid out side by side like that.
Yes, it does. It does. This will blend so much easier into what we're trying to do with the town itself. Now, the next steps. You guys talked about, we want to see burned out, blown up buildings. Okay, so we want to see the impact that shells and stuff would have had. And we completely agree. So we have a couple of options. One is we could take hammers to these beautiful buildings and start to break them all up.
Why? Well, could do that.
But we're not going to do that. We're not going to do that. What we're going to attempt to do instead is we're going to 3D print batches of ruined buildings. The royal we, Justin. The royal we.
We've got really good at it.
Yeah. We've got excellent at making Justin 3D print stuff. So what we're going to do is we're going to 3D print a bunch of destroyed and ruined buildings, and then what we're going to do is we're going to intermingle into this in patches, not as individuals, but kind of like groups of ruined buildings,
Yeah,
okay?
okay.
That are going to be heavily burnt out. So that's it before it's been weathered and has all its burn effects and stuff put on it.
I still think we should have maybe the odd one out in its own.
You
Because
can
that
do.
gives us an excuse to chuck down more rubble mix in that area.
Yes.
Which we'll get to in a sec.
Yeah, so you can do, but I don't want them evenly interspaced among it all. There has to be groups and then the odd single.
Like a plane's gone over on a particular path or a track or something, yeah.
Well, the shelling I don't think would have took place from plane. I'm fairly certain it would have took place from ship. Were they shelled from ship or by plane or both?
The nearest city was only bombed. It was out in naval artillery.
Naval artillery did this then? Is that
No,
what?
planes would have done
Planes.
Planes did this
Planes.
because the naval artillery were too close.
No,
We're
too far away.
Too far away. Okay, so planes did it.
Yeah, there you go.
Awesome. Right, well, then that's what we're going to do. So, with runes, then that allows us to introduce another layer to this, this will be part of the super detailing stage that I think will really finish it off. And that's what we like to call rubble mix. And now we create rubble mix and scatter mixes for all of our boot camps that go on the day before the boot camp. It's like the final stage where we start to blend everything together with detritus and all of that kind of crap that builds up. So Martin, our buddy, the most qualified man ever to walk into our studio, who has now spent 8 hours clipping coffee sticks, has been working on rubble mix. So, Martin, what are we putting together?
So it's essentially your coffee stirrers, but the problem is if you clip, what we were doing was splitting them with a knife and then breaking them apart. That was really slow, so we weren't getting enough done. So we've now moved to clipping them with a pair of clippers. But of course that's now too big for 15 mil. It's more 28 mil. So you simply clip it at the bottom and then split it apart. So you end up with much smaller pieces than this.
And then
Eventually, that's what 8 hours later looks like.
This here is the coffee stirrers.
Yep.
It's also 2 packs of toothpicks.
Yep.
Cut up into like 3 bits. There's also big matches. Do you know them big matches you can get? They're like this long.
Yes.
All struck off and then cut up into bits as well. All mixed together. And then the next step is to think about how we're going to colour all this. I'm thinking we might just hit it with like rat cans or
model
mates or a combination of the two.
or some kind of a wood stain, or possibly even a fabric dye. And we use because we found that the fabric dye just works beautiful on wood. It just soaks right in to the wood. Now this, it'll be coupled with other rubble mix.
I've got a good tub here.
Yeah.
Like this tub here's leftovers. I don't really know what's in it, but it looks kind of like what we're after.
Yeah, so that's a part of the rubble mix. This is also some of the heavier rubble mix. And then if we have, let me borrow this bag for a second and show you something cool, okay? If I take a handful, this is just cork, okay? Yeah. So let me put that cork in there. And then if you can pass me over the rusty red there, please, Lloyd. What do you see what this does?
Because the cork's quite porous, it just is so
Yep, the cork takes in all of that lovely red kind of dye that's in it. And I think this is one of the ways. We need a wee bit more blasting, but this is how we're going to get some of that red brick kind of effect.
I'm also thinking of taking some sand and just hitting it with a dusting of actual red spray as well. It's not the cheapest method, but you're only doing like dusting. And the other thing is, we have this red soil as well. We might be able to filter some of that down.
Yes, this is Australian soil. We're not supposed to say we have that, but it probably has all sorts of bugs and stuff in it that we're going to give to Justin. But one of the other things that we can do, once again, is we could have a look and see if we can get a red fabric dye.
Yeah.
Okay. Put the cork in to the red fabric dye and mix it all up. And then it's about getting your different kinds of colours.
Yeah, because that's for the central bit where all the factories are.
Yes. Lots of nice red rubble mix.
This bit that Warren's been spraying up is for this central region.
Yeah.
And the other bits is maybe a bit more browns and greys and whites and stuff.
Yeah.
Will be for over here where all the other townhouses type buildings are.
So, thank you for your input yesterday. We will continue bashing on with this. and keep your comments flowing.